Is this something that has happened to you? That you wanted to say something, the person have misunderstood you, and you are being forced to take a blame that you don't even want to do. People rarely fight because of bad intentions. Most of the conflict happens because people think differently and speak different mental languages. MBTI explains these preferences. Some people process the world through facts and details, others through pattern and meanings. Some decide with logic, others with values. Some need structure to explain what they are saying, and other needs flexibility. For example, introverts think before speaking. Extroverts think while speaking. Sensors want practical steps, and intuitives wants vision. Thinkers want logic, and feelers want impact. The judgmental person want plan, but the perceivers want options. The Mayer-Briggs type indicator MBTI framework suggests that many conflicts arise from the fundamental difference in how individual perceives the information, make decisions, and communicate, which can be seen as speaking different mental languages. The MBTI helps explain these natural inborn preferences and offers a way to improve mutual understanding and reducing conflict. So let's see, how does MBTI work? Now we are going to discuss about how does this MBTI works. Understanding MBTI and its role in personal development. The Mayer-Bridges type indicator is a psychological framework designed to categorize individuals into 16 distinct personality types based on the preferences in how they perceive the world and make decisions, proving the valuable insight that can enhance self-awareness and improve communication and foster personal growth. Now, when we get into the detail, we try to understand from one source of information, that is conflict. Usually, in any conversation or in any personality clash, conflict is the main source where we try to understand the patterns. When things are going well, we usually don't focus on those things. However, if the things are not going in the right direction, that's where we try to understand what went wrong. So, let's start with the source of conflict. The common misconception about conflict is many people believe that all conflicts are negative, when in fact it is a catalyst for growth and improvement. Because when the conflict occur, we try to understand each other's perspective, which is obviously not matching the way how we think or the other person. How different processing style leads to misunderstanding. Individuals have unique ways of processing information and emotions, which can result in misinterpretation and escalate tensions in interactions. If you are talking to a person who is from a technical background, however, you are a client facing person, you probably would be using more business and market language as compared to the technical keywords. While explaining your point to a technical person, that would be really a matter of fact, where they won't be understanding the way how you see things or how you are creating value for that particular outcome. A technical person would expect you to talk in a programming language where they have to think through the logic, not as the value, because their work is more related to the technical aspect of a particular product. However, a marketing or a salesperson, or probably a person who is trying to use that product, won't be seeing the way how the technical person is seeing it. The technical person could end it towards the logic. However, the person who is utilizing it or trying to sell its value would be talking in the terms of value or the market presence. Both are correct at each level. However, the processing styles and the mental mind maps for the each kind of personality is very different. This happens in relationships as well. The role of MBTI in identifying the difference. The Myers-Briggs Type indicator MBTI offers insight into personality types, help individuals understand diverse perspective and reduce the friction in relationships. Sometimes we are talking to a person where there is a very different role they are playing. For example, you have a son and your son is playing a role of a father as well. Now, considering the age of yourself, you can understand multiple roles because you have been through a different lifestyle, being a mother or a grandparent in some or the other way. However, the person who is in front of you, you would be expecting their role as a son. However, the other person might be expecting their role as a partner or a father. At both times, it would be really challenging for the person to address all sort of roles and try to understand their perspective because obviously their perspective would change from person to person and context to context. That's where it is really important to understand the nature difference and the pattern difference between all the context, situations, and roles based on the time and presence of the particular context. Now, coming to filtering out reality, what are the four quick questions your brain would ask? We'll explore more about the fundamental inquiries that shapes our perception and interpretation of an experience. Second, how MBTI provides answers. We'll discover how Myers and Bridges type indicators help clarify individuals' preferences and cognitive processes. And third, understanding your mental filters. Examine the subconscious bias and perspectives that individual how we perceive and react to the world around us. Coming to the four dimensions of MBTI. MBTI have four preferences. Introducing the four dichotomies extroversion versus introversion, which means being extrovert, being more social, being more outward, versus introversion, more introspective and reserved, and more kind of a observer and listener. Second is sensing versus intuition. Sensing means seeing the facts, being rational, and seeing the things on paper makes more sense. If I'm seeing it, I'm believing it, kind of a nature. Versus intuition is thinking about the instinct and trying to realize and making sense of everything based on the instinct or so called energy or something related to it, where you are intuiting and believing in your instinct while doing anything. That could not be explained, but of course, that is a way of somebody's personality as well. Thinking versus feeling. Thinking is a part where a person is thinking and making a fact from certain point where they have certain data points or certain relatable situations where they are making a match and probability from that particular thing. Feeling is more again instinctive, where a person is sensing the emotion behind the saying. It also increases the sensitivity and empathy towards the other person. However, thinking talks about the experiences and the situations which have already been there or probably can be there based on whatever experiences or data points you have gathered. The final one is judging versus perceiving. Judging versus perceiving is if you are compliant to one particular process, then you are a person who is based on facts and judge on the situation. It's not about being stubborn, but it's being about unidirectional, where you know this is how it has to be done and you believe in the truth of that fact. However, perceiving is a situation where you look for options. You don't go with one, but you have to compare gradually and then only you can move forward with any insight. These are the providing insights into personality types, which are a combination in a person where the absence of the other one is not required. However, a person would have higher level of one thing as compared to the other. For example, thinking and feeling. So probably you have lesser thinking and more feeling. It doesn't mean that thinking is absent in you, but depending on the scenarios and cases, that could be practiced and understood based on the dynamics of a situation as well. So let's start and move forward how each dimension affects interaction. We'll explore how individual preferences influences communication styles, decision-making processes, and conflict resolution methods in various social contexts. So if you are in workplace, then you would be able to make more sense when you have data points in your hand. Especially if you are talking about support functions like marketing, finance, and HR, you would need more data points as compared to the other developmental areas where thought process is being developed based on the coding and certain subjective points which are not visible until unless they are completed. This is a part where your communication style would change. However, personally or in personal relationships, you probably are more intuitive. There, you are using less thinking and more feeling. You can sense if somebody is saying, I'm happy. Whether they are happy or not, is the tone or the voice or the emotion behind that sentence would make more sense to you. And you can understand whether it is a good thing or a bad thing. Importance of recognizing individual preferences. Emphasizing the benefits of understanding diverse personality types and fostering collaboration, improvising the team dynamics, and enhancing interpersonal relationships. So when we talk about importance of recognizing individual preferences, we invite relationships and we invite collaborations. Sometimes the other person might not be thinking in the similar way how we are, but inviting and giving a space to their pattern or their personality type helps us to understand them in a better way. It doesn't mean they are right or wrong, or you are right or wrong. It just means they are thinking it differently, and probably understanding them would also give you more perspective about the other person. Or probably it is also related to something on which they are working. It is easier to grasp these things in workplace as compared to relationships. Energy, extraversion versus introversion. What are the characteristics of extroverts? Extroverts are energized by social interactions and thrive in dynamic environments and often enjoy the groups, activities, and conversations. Characteristics of introverts. Introverts recharge through solitude and prefer deeper one on one conversations, often engaging in reflective thinking and quiet pursuits. Common conflict between E and I types. Conflict may arise due to different communication styles, with extroverts favoring open discussions and introverts valuing thoughtful responses and listening. However, both of them are present in some or the other way, and as well, as soon as you get matured, you will try to balance each of them depending on the time, context, and situation. Sometimes extroverts do prefer to stay silent for some days or probably some hours as well. However, introverts may feel very safe and pretty open and talkative when they are finding a safe space to explore and experience their expression. About information, sensing versus intuition. The key traits of sensing types. Individuals with sensing preferences tend to focus on concrete information, rely on experience, and value practical and detail oriented approach in problem solving. However, key traits of intuitive types prioritize patterns, possibilities, and abstract thinking, often seeking innovative solutions and envisioning future potential rather than concentrating on immediate facts. What are usual conflict examples while understanding the perspectives of each? Conflicts between sensing and intuitive types can arise from different communication styles, where sensing individuals may perceive intuitive as impractical, while intuitives may view sensors as overly focused on details and resistance to new ideas. Now, coming up to the decision making factors of thinking versus feeling. Decision making styles of thinkers prioritize logic and objective analysis, often relying on the facts and data to guide their choices and solutions. Decision making styles of feelers tend to consider personal values and emotional impact of decisions on themselves and others, emphasizing harmony and relationships. Understanding the impact of each preference, recognizing the differences between thinking and feeling preferences can enhance collaboration and improve decision making outcomes in diverse teams, which is very much fact when you are talking to different people from different countries because their understanding about thinking and feeling and perceiving it at workplace is very different. If you talk to any authoritative country, for example, if you are talking to China team versus you are talking to a European team, you'll find a very different way of communication and approach as compared to one versus another. China prefers hierarchy where your designation keeps a very much importance while you are talking to a senior level. You would be preferably at a higher level while talking to the respective person. However, in Europe, especially in the service industry, when you talk to the people, they might prefer to discuss anything pretty openly. However, they will try to create more trust before giving their information as compared to the other Asian countries. So these are very small differences, but depending on the type of industry, type of workplace, the culture of organization versus how you are asked to be perceived in the respective workplace makes a lot of difference in terms of communication and decision making. Lifestyle, judging versus perceiving. Preferences of judging types and lifestyle. Judging types of personalities tend to favor structured environments, prioritizing organization and planning in their different daily activities. However, preferences of perceiving types prefer flexibility and spontaneity, valuing adaptability over strict schedules, which allows for exploration and creativity. So, whenever you are working with the judging type of personalities, they would seek the structure, they would seek the document, they would seek the pointers of task and activity, what is the plan ahead. However, perceiving types are more flexible and spontaneous in their action. They would also have a set of list, however, their adaptability and flexibility is pretty agile, and they would prefer a little bit of flexibility over a strict or a planned schedule, which allows exploration and creativity, which is very common in terms of marketing and sales, where the flexibility is more preferable for the respective client or the customer, depending on the theme or the expectation they would have for a respective company. Now, conflict arising from different lifestyle preferences. When judging types seek closure and order, while perceiving types advocate for open endedness and varied option in decision making. Now, the next is personality development through self awareness. The importance of knowing your type. Understanding your personality type helps you to recognize strength, weakness, and the way you interact with others, facilitating better and personal professional relationships. Reducing inner conflict through self understanding. Gaining insights into your thoughts and feelings allow you to identify and address inner struggles, leading to the greater emotional stability and improved decision making. So, how awareness leads to growth? Awareness leads to growth by cultivating self awareness. You create opportunities by personal growth and transformation, enabling you to set meaningful goals and pursue them effectively. How do we apply MBTI in relationships and work? By improving communication in personal relationships, utilize MBTI personality types to understand and adapt to different communication styles of your partner or friends or workplace, fostering deeper connections and better communication. The role of MBTI in team dynamics and leadership. You can analyze how diverse personality types influence the team collaboration, problem solving, and leadership effectiveness, enhancing overall productivity at a workplace or along with the team. So, finally, embracing the difference of growth. is to recognize and celebrate individual differences in personalities as a valuable asset of personality development and harmonious relationships in both personal and professional context. So here we come to the end of session 3, MBTI. We'll meet again. Thank you.